The portal's closed, and the question is, how many of the incredible players that Coach Eklo brought in could start for Texas A&M this year?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday. Happy Super Bowl weekend. Really excited. I mean, you get Terry Bussey and then you get the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a good couple of days, ladies and gentlemen. So here's the question today. Coach Eklo brings in an incredible transfer portal class. And I've seen this narrative floating around now of Coach, it was a quantity over quality kind of portal class. And I look at this and I go, don't agree with that. I mean, so I'm really excited about this transfer portal class. So I wanted to go through 8 guys that I think can start from this portal class. And legitimately looking through it, I really dug into this trying to find, I think you could see 6 transfers start next year. Now, that's obviously not much of a surprise knowing you lost a ton of your roster. It's different if you don't, have as much roster turnover as Texas A&M did have. But that's why, you're going to have a lot of transfers start, and it's not really much of a surprise knowing what all you lost. But still interesting to have a ton of transfers come in and play. Guys you didn't know who they were 6 months before the season kind of stuff. So the number one guy, and this is a boring answer, but is Nick Scorton. I actually have a mailbag question about Nick Scorton that is really interesting. And, a mailbag question that the answer is Nick Scorton. But, I mean, I need to stop talking about him because everybody knows my thoughts on Nick Scorton. It's like, I don't know what the point is of even talking about him anymore. Y'all know how I feel. I think he's a legit dude that could come in and be an All-American player. I think he could lead the SEC in sacks, and I think that the NFL could come calling. So, I think that he's my number one guy. You're going to see him out there rushing the quarterback, stopping the run, doing everything he can to make this Texas A&M defense better. I think you're going to see him get a lot of sacks. I think you're going to see him play really, really good football for this team. So he's my number one guy, and it's not much of a surprise. I'm really excited to see him out on the field. I think he's going to have a great, great, great season. And I think that I think the sack number is going to be truly insane when you see, the amount of sacks that Nick Scorton puts up on the board. I think it's going to really, we're going to look at it and we're going to go, wow. My number 2 guy is Will Lee. So, I've seen a lot of people in the comments saying, Will Lee got burned a lot last year at Kansas State. And you're right. I'm not going to fight you over that. You are correct. Will Lee did get burned, some at Kansas State last year. But I will also say this, watching him, just watching the tape, obviously one thing I like to add, highlight tape is exactly what the word says. Highlight, no low lights. There's no, they don't put the bad plays on there as much. I did find some poor plays by Will Lee. And I think what's exciting about him is the athleticism's there, the skill is there. I just think different communication things. I think he needs to learn a little bit, a little bit more about, and I think Coach Eklo can teach that to him. The new secondaries coach can teach this to him. So I think he's going to, here, listen, I'm going to be honest with y'all. There are a ton of secondary players on this list, because I think you're going to see 3 transfers from the secondary or transfer players start in the secondary this year. That's, it's a position where you've got a lot of young guys that could be the future, but maybe that future isn't for another year. And Will Lee is a player that I think is going to have a really good season for Texas A&M. I think that the issues he had at Kansas State will be cleaned up, and he's going to have a good year. So he's my number 2. My number 3 is the Cal Poly corner transfer, Donovan Saunders. This is one of those. He's one of those players that it's going to be interesting because it's a big step for him. But I mean, he's just so good. You know what I mean? He is just so good. Another guy that the tape on him doesn't lie, but the competition levels, the question mark, and that's kind of what I always talk about. Those of you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know is, you've got different competition levels at when you're a transfer. You've got the SEC guys coming into another school. Obviously, they've got SEC. They've proven they can play in the SEC. Then you've got the lower school guys, the non-Power 5 guys that are coming in, and okay, it's more high-end Division I football. Then you've got the low-end guys, and that's what Donovan Saunders is. But I mean, I'm just telling you, this dude can play ball. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him out there. He's one of those guys, he could be incredible and work his way into the NFL draft, or he could be a bit of a bust. He could go either way. But I think it's an upside play, and if the upside hits, I like it. And then I've got Jabri Barber, the receiver. His path to starting is very, very difficult. Very difficult. But, to get 8 names on this list, you kind of had to have Jabri Barber, and he's a player. It would take a lot. It would take a lot for him to sneak into a starting lineup, but I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. I'm kind of anxious. He's one of those players that, I'm anxious to see what Donovan Saunders does in the SEC, of course. And, I'm anxious to see how Will Lee does. Is he going to fix some of his issues? Will the coaching staff help him out? With Jabri Barber, for me, I'm more just interested to see what his role is going to be. I think we know who he is as a player. I feel pretty good about who he is as a player. I think he's a good receiver, and he's going to help this team. But I think he can start upside, or he could get 40 snaps on the season. I mean, that's the ceiling and the floor of Jabri Barber. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he does. I'm excited to see it. The next guy I have here is the Alabama transfer corner, Des Ricks. Des Ricks is a guy we didn't see a ton at Alabama last year. Young guy, but I think this kid's going to be special. I trust, Alabama when it comes to recruiting secondary players. I think that Des Ricks would have, had Saban stayed, I think he'd have had a shot, with Kool-Aid McKinstry moving on to the NFL. Des Ricks would have had a shot to hop in a starting lineup this year. And, so we don't have much college tape, but the high school tape is incredible, which is, of course, why he was, a 5-star player. And, I mean, rated the 98.83 out of high school. So Ricks is a guy I would not be surprised crack the starting lineup. There's just the upside there is higher than anybody, I think, really, except for Scorton in this transfer portal class. The next guy I got here is Marcus Ratcliffe, the safety. I think that Marcus Ratcliffe, San Diego State safety, I think that Marcus Ratcliffe is a player who, of the safeties that you brought in, of Jericky Wright and Trey Jones, I think Ratcliffe has the highest chance of starting. I think he's going to be a really good player, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him start. Next guy I got is Alex Howard, the linebacker from Youngstown State. I think that Alex Howard is one of the most underrated players in this transfer portal class. Not talked about a ton, Youngstown State, but I think if it all clicks for him and he starts, I think he could be really, really good. He's got some of the best tape of all the portal class. So and I would really not be surprised to see him out there, with York. Then I've got Derek Graham, the offensive lineman from Troy. I just think that the reason I stuck him in here at 8 is if an offensive tackle is going to start, I think it's going to be Derek Graham. His tape was the most exciting tape to me. I like that he can play tackle. It's a position of need, and I think he's going to be fighting for a starting role. And I think of the offensive lineman that came in via the portal, his chance to a starting role is the best of all of those guys. So those are 8 guys that I could see work their way into a starting role. So let me know y'all's thoughts on that. Do you think we could see any of those guys step into a starting role? And is there a name that you like on the list I didn't have? Let me know all of those things in the comments. We're going to answer some mailbag questions. Got some really interesting ones coming up today, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. We're almost there, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, the media day is over. All that's gone and past. And I'm starting to get this weird feeling the Chiefs are going to win. And I really want the 49ers to win. So I don't know what to do on FanDuel. I don't know what to do. I don't have a good feeling one way or the other. I like the 49ers, but I just think the Chiefs have been great in the playoffs. I think that they're on a roll. Kelsey and Mahomes are getting going. They didn't have a great regular season, but they're getting going now. And I just have a weird feeling they're going to win it all. FanDuel has so many ways to end the season with a dub or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for who's going to score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, got some really interesting mailbag questions, which once again, I always want to reiterate, those of you that want, to be involved in the mailbag section in the offseason, I try and do it every Friday. Let me know. You can put it in the comments of the show. You can DM me on Twitter. You can DM the show on Twitter. I had a couple people send me them on LinkedIn. I mean, there's a ton of places you can send me mailbag questions. Anywhere you want, send them over to me. I love answering them. I love hearing y'all's thoughts and questions, and let's answer some of them. So the first one is just, now that Bussy signed, Bourdon has signed, and the new receiver, who I already forget his name, Ashton Bethel Roman, that's his name. The new receiver, how do I feel about the 2024 class? And I'll tell you, I feel pretty good about it. And the reason I feel pretty good about it was because here I'm gonna draw a line chart for those of you. So folks that are listening on audio, you're missing out on this line chart. But I mean, it went up. The class did. Coach Fisher gets fired. Things look bad. It kind of plateaus, and then there goes Cam Coleman and Draylon Miller and Dominic McKinley, and you start falling down a little bit of the path. So we were on a high, and now we're coming down. But then what does Coach Eklo do? He goes and he gets Solomon Williams and Isaiah Williams. Those two guys, same high school, gets them around the same time, adds 2 4-stars that we weren't expecting. Go get a Kendall Jackson. When did he commit again? I forget when he committed. December 19th. Yeah, so go get a Kendall Jackson. Add those guys. Go hold on to Terry Bussey. Go get a Bourdon. Go get an Ashton Bethel Roman. This is what I'm talking about. I didn't know what Coach Eklo was going to be able to do when it came to kind of closing this class. I thought it was going to be the goal was to hold on to Bussey, and that's it. But what do? You add a 3-star tackle. You add a 4-star, high 4-star receiver in Ashton Bethel Roman. You sign your huge 5-star, do-it-all, corner, athlete, receiver, quarterback, left fielder, whatever you need him to do, he can do it. I mean, like if you needed Terry Bussey to start at left field for Texas A&M, I think he could do it. Well, he did. He played baseball. Of course he could. He can do anything you need him to do. If you're like, Terry, I need you to do 500 push-ups in 3 minutes, or I'm gonna lose $1 million. He'd get it done for you. I just feel pretty confident in that. Kendall Jackson, is he a 4-star on here? No, he's a 3-star. I thought that maybe let's see. No, yeah, they have him as a 4-star in the composite rankings. So 4-star in the composite rankings, Kendall Jackson is. And then you've got the two guys, Solomon Williams and Isaiah Williams, both from Carrollwood Day in Tampa, Florida, both of them high 4-star players. So Coach Elko closed this class incredibly well. Like I said, I thought that the only goal was going to be to hold on to Terry Bussey. Not only did you hold on to Terry Bussey, but you bring in these other guys that really boosted this class. Having this class 16th, for where it was, where, we're up to number 3 and then we're down far, and then bring it back up. I was really impressed with what Coach Elko did finishing up this class. So I was really happy with that. So, and then my next question kind of piggybacks off of that is, where do I think Elko's 2025 class will end up? I think that he's going to have a top 10 class, but I think that it's going to, when I say top 10, I think it's going to be 8, 9, 10. I don't think it's going to be like 4, 5, 6. And then I think after that, you could start seeing him reel in top 5 classes. But I do think that the first class he's going to have at Texas A&M, like first real class, will be top 10. I mean, it's just, and at the end of the day, I think that he's hired a lot of great recruiters to his staff. I think Elko can recruit himself. And on top of all of those things, Texas A&M once again sells itself. I told y'all I was going to do an episode on the NIL. I'm back and forth with some folks. That's getting information on that is taking a little bit more time, but that's perfect because I think this is more of an off-season topic. But that's going to be a really fun conversation. I'm doing some really deep dive stuff into that, so be patient on that. But it's going to be worth the wait. So that's my thought on the 2025 class. So this is interesting. Who will be the first A&M player drafted, not in this upcoming draft, but next year's draft? I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of names here. A lot of names. But I'll tell you this, and this is where I kind of foreshadowed talking about Nick Scorton. I think if Nick Scorton, he was class 2022, so he'll be eligible after this season. If he has the kind of season that I think he's going to have at Texas A&M, knowing how much edge rushers and pass rushers are loved and valued by the NFL, I could see himself working his way into the first round. That's how good he is. If he comes into the SEC and has 9, 10, 11 sacks, yes, he can work his way into the first round of the NFL draft, knowing that he did it. He did 10 sacks the year before in the Big Ten. I mean, it's very, very possible for a player like Nick Scorton to work his way into it. A little halftime of this segment, shout out. Myles Garrett wins Defensive Player of the Year. Good for Myles Garrett. Really cool to see. And you can talk about recruiting. I think that's something. I mean, look at all the you can just point at all these talented former Texas A&M players in the league. Hey, Myles Garrett. Hey, Mike Evans had an incredible year. I mean, you can point at all these guys and use that as a tool. I mean, because I feel like Texas A&M, a lot of the guys Texas A&M has in the league are stars. I mean, real, genuine stars. So it's a recruiting tool. Hey, you play like Myles Garrett? Well, come here to Texas A&M. We'll have you be the next Myles Garrett. You're a tall, lengthy receiver. Come here and be the next Mike Evans, and you'll be a 1,000-yard receiver every year. I think it can be a tool. But congrats to Myles Garrett. Everybody's happy for you, of course. So I'm going to be short and sweet here because I think that y'all will be really interested in the next question. So this one, biggest concern. Someone asked it again. I'm pretty sure I answered it a couple weeks ago on mailbag, but it's offensive line, and I don't see that changing. I feel better about the secondary based on the additions you made via the portal, to where now it's like the offensive line will make or break this 2024 Texas A&M football team. And then who do I feel the best about? It'd probably be, I mean, this sounds a little, it's broad, but just the front seven as a whole. I feel really good about Texas A&M's front seven heading into next year. Really, really good about it. So this is a really good question I got, and it's a baseball question. And folks, like I said, I love baseball. I love baseball questions. I love to sit here and talk about baseball. You give me an excuse to talk about baseball, I will do it. And this is a really interesting question I got, and it says, what's more likely, Texas A&M winning the SEC or Texas A&M going to Omaha? And I have an interesting answer. That's why I wanted to bring this up. I honestly think it's more likely to go to Omaha. I'll tell you why. I often say that I think the SEC is the best conference in any sport in college football. I mean, in college athletics. I mean, SEC baseball is a farm system at this point. And Texas A&M is, a highly ranked team. I've got some, we got some preseason players. I'm going to save that for our preview for next week, because we're going to preview the baseball team for a deep dive next week heading into opening day. But I just think that it's hard to win the SEC because you're going against, top 10 teams every weekend. And when you get in the postseason, especially if you're able to host, you are the best team there. And then you go to a super. The only thing that really scares me when you go to a super is A, going to play another SEC team, or B, having to play another SEC team. I mean, you know what I mean? I just think that now, obviously, are there outliers? Yes. Florida State's been historically good. North Carolina, USC, UCLA, or UCLA, excuse me, are historically good baseball teams in college baseball. So, it's an interesting debate to have, but I really do think, because winning the SEC is so hard to do. I mean, Florida's so good. Texas A&M's so good. But what I'm saying is it's so hard to stack those wins together in this conference, to where I think that when going to Omaha, the route to that is actually easier than it is to win the SEC. That's how tough this league is. So I cannot wait to get more into baseball stuff. We'll do a lot with it next week. I want to preview the Texas A&M Tennessee game a little bit, because I really think this could be a make or break game for the Aggies. We'll talk about that ball game coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Okay. This is interesting to me, this basketball game. This is going to be, listen, playing on the road in the SEC is never easy. I don't care where you're going. It is never an easy thing to do. It's not going to be easy for Tennessee to come in to Reed Arena and play well. Tennessee is a really good basketball team. A really good basketball team. I don't know if y'all have had the opportunity to watch them play. They are incredible. No question there. But I do think that when a team comes to your home court and you got a rowdy arena, if you play good on the offensive end and you have a good defensive day and you keep rebounding, if you do what you've been doing and then make your shots and, of course, your free throws, Texas A&M can win this basketball game. Now, will they be favored? No. Do the metrics think they're going to win? No. Does this ESPN matchup predictor think they're going to win? No. Okay. I mean, of course, I'm not saying this is likely. What I'm saying is there's a lot of things I don't hate a basketball team being, and one of those is desperate. And this Texas A&M team is desperate. To me, the last time they were desperate, when they started SEC play 0-2, what did they do? They beat Kentucky in a Reed Arena. Now, Tennessee's better than Kentucky. We saw that play out when Tennessee steamrolled Kentucky in Rupp Arena. But, that's what I'm saying. A desperate Texas A&M team needed the quad one win, and they got it, beating Kentucky. They're on now. Texas A&M, you're on a little bit of a roll right now. You beat Florida, you beat Missouri. You're feeling good. You've won 2 ball games in a row. You won a game this week away from home. Now you're back at home for a Saturday game. People are going to be excited. Texas A&M can win this basketball game. Like I said, the metrics won't believe it. The numbers won't believe it. Vegas won't believe it, but it's reality. So the key to beating Tennessee was taught to us by the South Carolina Gamecocks. And I'll tell you what that is, and it's pretty simple. It is not letting the other guys beat you. So if you look at Tennessee's numbers, what happened against, for example, here, let's pull this up. What did Tennessee do against Kentucky? Well, I'll show you. They scored 103 points, and listen to the numbers. Dalton Connect had 16, and that's their star. Dalton Connect is one of the best players in the SEC. He had 16 points. So I'm like, 16 points, wow. But he's averaging like 1,000,000 points in SEC play. So what happened? Here's the points you got from your other starters. Adu, 11 points. Zakai Ziegler, 26 points. Santiago Vescovi, 11 points. Josiah Jordan-James, 26 points. This is what I'm talking about. The other guys beat Kentucky in that game, not just Connect. Connect had a fine game, but the other guys beat them. Then you look at the South Carolina game. Here is the blueprint. Now, of course, holding Tennessee to 59 points, you have a shot to win. But listen, Dalton Connect has 31 points. Tennessee has 59 as a whole, so he has over half of their points. Then you pull the rest of their starting lineup. Josiah Jordan-James has 2 points. Adu has 6 points. Zakai Ziegler has 2 points. Vescovi has 10 points. The other guys didn't beat you. It took Dalton Connect to try and beat you, and he couldn't do it himself. So I think that's what you got to do. You got to do everything you can, take the other guys out of the game and let Connect score 30 points. Who cares? If you score 64 points, they score 62, and Connect has 59 of those 62, who cares? Who cares? You won the game. That's kind of my point. So don't let the other guys beat you. I think getting easy looks is going to be really important in this game. You got to get easy looks. This team hasn't been shooting the ball extremely well this year from deep. And Tennessee is one of the best defenses when it comes to KenPom rating. So what do? You beat them with easy looks. You use your offensive rebounding, you get to the rim, you score, you get to the line and make your free throws. Don't just get to the line, make your free throws. So easy looks. So they play great defense. You have to get those easy around the rim looks. And then, listen, if you win this basketball game, this could springboard you into the SEC tournament, into March. It's huge. I think it's not a must win, but man, would the outlook on this season for Texas A&M be so much better if they found a way to beat the Vols on Saturday. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies and this week here at Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really do appreciate it. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Have a great time watching it, and we will see you on Monday.